These forges are absolutely massive and yield some of the most heavy-duty products around. It's not hard to feel a strange sense of satisfaction as we watch the red-hot metal bend and forge into shape. Join me as we look at 15 of the most incredible forging machines in the world. Number 15. Counterblow Hammers. There's the hammer that you keep in your toolbox, there's the bigger hammer that your father keeps in the shed, and then there are huge hammers that you'll find in a factory. We're talking here about counterblow hammers. These machines have earned themselves quite the reputation with the raw power and sheer force that they're able to exude day in and day out. They are predominantly used in the manufacturing of large and ultra-large forgings and use their high-impact energy to beat molten steel into submission. The counterblow hammer relies on hydraulics and works with a high level of precision and its own weight as it moves in opposite directions and the pneumatics drive home to get the job done. Counterblow hammers, especially those with the aforementioned hydraulic drives, are best suited for the medium tonnage productions. There's no need whatsoever to develop or install complex compressed air systems. So sometimes the simplest method is the most effective. One of the largest and most powerful of these forging machines comes from the manufacturer Schuler, which contracts out their heavy machinery to help create things like trucks, ships, and trains. Their most powerful counterblow hammer is able to crank out over 80,000 metric tons of force. Yeah, that's not the type of machine you want to get your finger ever caught in, because it'll smush it into smithereens. Number 14. BGH Edelstahl. One of the biggest and most reliable names in specialty steel is the German company BGH Edelstahl. They're working every day with stainless steel and nickel alloys in the hopes of paving the way for the future of renewable energy sources like natural gas, solar, and wind energy. And they've got the heavy-duty machinery to back that promise up. The company's been around for nearly 600 years, so it's safe to say they know exactly what they're doing with their state-of-the-art forging plant and integrated production process that does everything from melting to the finished wire, rod, and open die forging. Yeah, the list keeps on going. But one of their favorite toys in the forge has got to be their open die forging unit from their friends at ZDAS. The forging unit is absolutely massive and holds on tightly to the bright red-hot steel beams and uses a hydraulic drive with up to 2 forging manipulators. And since we're living in the 21st century, you can rest assured that this huge piece of machinery is totally programmable and works automatically to give humans a rest when things get a little too hot. This sort of thing is the real deal and definitely not to be trifled with unless you're an expert. Maybe better yet, just leave things to the good old folks at BGH Edelstahl. Number 13. Sorel Forge. Based out of Quebec, Canada, Sorel Forge has been around forever and really rose to prominence during the Second World War when the demand for steel for the Allied forces shot through the roof almost overnight. They quickly became the first and only production center of artillery equipment in North America and were using raw materials to manufacture weapons for the winning side. Cut to today, and they are without a doubt one of the most trusted names in the game. These guys do everything, from the smelting to using their ladle metallurgy furnace to vacuum degassing. But you can't forget about their massive forging presses either. The heart and soul of Sorel, they're working with a 5,000-ton open-die hydraulic press, complete with wide dies to ensure the same high-quality product they've been delivering since the 1800s. Their hydraulic press can produce a forging up to 50 feet long and 72 inches in diameter, and can crunch those discs down to about 115 inches in diameter. Sorel's hydraulic presses offer more flexibility than their competitors, and the entire gamut is run via computer and totally synchronized with their 130-ton rail-bound manipulator. And just how big is Sorel's hydraulic press? Try 2,000 tons. Number 12. The Forged Bar. We've got bars, forge bars that is. A good steel bar forging machine can work with all sorts of metals, from carbon steel to stainless steel, from copper to something as strong as titanium, and can crank out as much as 60,000 pounds and 120 feet worth of bars. When you're heating up the billet, it reaches a maximum temperature of well over 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit on a good day. And sure, that level of heat is absolutely insane, but the only way to get that metal flexible and malleable enough to work with. But once it's hot enough and finally workable, the forging machine is going to roll it through a planing mill to give it its rounded shape. That hot rolled bar can be made relatively quickly, but once the metal is quickly cooled, then things can get a little tricky, especially if you don't know what you're doing. Warping is a very common occurrence during the cooling stage, and getting it to form the perfect dimensions and thickness and that nice smooth finish is pretty tough. And like so many things in life, timing is everything when it comes to a hot rolled bar. The chemical composition is changing so quickly that if you miss that window, you have to go back to the drawing forge. Number 11. Czech Precision Forges. You're really going to want to check out the next entry on our list of incredible forging machines. Czech Precision Forges is one of the top dogs in the world of forging, specializing in both open and closed die forging and churning out products for all types of industries, from renewable energy and power sectors to aviation and shipbuilders. Two of their biggest machines are the BGH 40 and the BGH 35, both of which are counterblow drop hammers equipped with gas furnaces and forging manipulators that can handle up to a 1-ton load. So it's safe to say that these forging machines can get a ton of work done in a day. Get it? Czech Precision Forges works with all sorts of materials, from construction steel to high-alloyed steels, copper and aluminum alloys, and specialty materials like mnemonic and titanium. And you've got to be mighty powerful to work with something like that, which is why the forge produces anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000 pounds at a time. They've been around for some time now, and it doesn't seem like they're going anywhere anytime soon. And there's a good reason why they're one of the best in the business. Number 10. Plate slabs. Have you ever seen an extra thin plate of steel and wondered just how exactly they're able to make it so skinny and so flimsy without having it break right there on the spot? Well, these slabs or sheets are a lot stronger than you would think and more durable than you'll ever know. And it all starts somewhere. And in this case, the metal begins as a simple ingot or bloom. From there, the forging machine uses an open die press with two opposing flat sides and bangs it out into submission. These ingots and blooms can be made from anything from aluminum to carbon steel and nickel-based alloys to the ever-strong titanium. The slab, in the end, is only going to be as good as the machine used to make it, but the most popular alloy in cases like this is usually stainless steel because of its amazing resistance to the oxidation process, making it the ideal choice when moisture is present, and it can handle all sorts of weather and working conditions. So how flat can these slabs get? Well, you're looking at a once thick piece of metal that is now less than 1 inch thick and flattened out to a width of as much as 40 feet and a max weight of 20,000 pounds. That's one big pancake. Number 9. Gear forging. Now we're going to kick things into gear, literally, because now we're talking about gear forging. Forging has been used in the manufacturing of gears for a pretty long time, and it's clearly the most effective method to crank out as much as possible. But precision forging has proven to be the best method in recent decades and produces gears for everything from maritime vessels to the aerospace sector. It's a pretty long and tough process, and if you've ever seen a gear close up and personal, which many of us have, you'll appreciate all the work that goes into creating these large yet simple machines. Precision gear processing helps to get the best shape as possible, which is typically used with the help of computers. It all starts with the gear blank and a tuning machine, which creates the hole diameter and creates all those sharp grooves that help it turn. The new gear is shaved down using radial technology, and then it's ready to get nice and white hot. But perhaps the best part of gear forging is watching the pre-forged gears sit in the machine, watching that clamp come down and raise up all within a fraction of a second, and then seeing the finished product. Number 8. Anyang Forging Manipulator. The Anyang Forging Manipulator is one of the most intimidating machines in the world, and that green paint job makes it look like Godzilla's breathing fire right into the factory. The Anyang Forging Manipulator is a dual hydraulic driven with a lateral shift function that's usually operated by a computer to make sure it gets everything right down to a fraction of an inch. Semi-automatic or just straight up manually if you're looking to live out your heavy machinery fantasies. This manipulator connects with the hydraulic free forging press through a digital input to get the linkage operation just right. From there, it will clamp shaft forgings and billets under its open die hammer or open die press to increase not just productivity but quality exponentially, which also reduces the intensity of the labor required, meaning everyone is working smarter, not harder, while maximizing not just production but profits too. The entire Anyang Forging Manipulator weighs a total of 30 tons and is as close to the arm of a giant robot will ever get. It's extra strong and extra durable, and anyone who's able to operate this cool piece of ultra-heavy machinery is one lucky person. Number 7. Franchini Acciai Forging. One of the best manufacturers of forging machines on the planet is located in the beautiful country of Italy and goes by the name Franchini Acciai Forging. In the grand scheme of the world, this Italian company is relatively young, only having been founded in the year 1968 and at the height of the space race. But although they're new, they've certainly left great impact on the world of forging materials, and they've managed to improve upon their manufacturing process in such a short period of time. Their demand has grown exponentially. They've got a hand in nearly every sector, from oil and gas to nuclear and cement and mining, even to naval operations. But of course, all of this begins with their forging department, which is the heart of any operation. Franchini Acciai Forging is well equipped with 3 fully automated presses with fully integrated manipulators that are able to churn out a max forging capacity of 100,000 tons a year. That's a lot of forging. And if you're looking to open up a competitor in Italy, good luck, because Franchini Acciai Forging isn't going anywhere. Number 6. Moritora Company. It seems like Japan is great at just about anything, so it should come as no surprise that they're the home of one of the world's top steelworks. Moritora is where it's at when it comes to delivering parts for ships and oil rigs out on the water, and a big portion of the country looks to them and their forge equipment to get things done as fast as humanly possible. And it makes a bit of sense considering the country has a rich history involving strong, sharp, and tough steel. This is another young company, only having been established in 1992 and operating out of the beautiful city of Osaka. And while they gladly heed the call of larger items, Moritora also specializes in smaller scale items like tools and crankshafts. Everything happens here in their factories, and Moritora can produce any piece of gear using their top-notch and state-of-the-art equipment. And the range of their equipment is as diverse as it is efficient. They've got large-scale hydraulic presses and closed-die forging machines, all of which have their customers consistently coming back for more as they forge great relationships with Japan's Moritora Company. Number 5. Induction Forge. There are plenty of ways to heat things up within the forge, and one of the more favored methods of heating metal is the induction method. Many of these are as incredible as they are accessible, and they're used by major manufacturers and home blacksmiths alike. The induction forge is able to preheat these ice-cold metals to temperatures well over 2,000 degrees, so they can become nice and malleable so we can start to get to work. It's nice because the induction heating process is a no-contact sport that uses the simple process of electromagnetic induction to generate that extreme level of heat. Induction heating certainly has its advantages. It may be a better option than your typical gas furnace because the induction forge doesn't need a preheating cycle or a controlled shutdown, meaning the heat is available whenever you need it and it starts to leave the moment you take the alloy out of the machine. It also doesn't release any toxic emissions either, meaning it's often a much safer alternative not just for the workers involved, but for the planet as a whole. Number 4. Steel balls. If you haven't figured it out already, forging is a big part of any industry, and each individual piece is an important part of the puzzle, no matter how small it is. The same goes for steel balls. Grinding steel balls are an integral part of the mining industry, but most people don't stop to think how they're actually made. How can something so hard also be so smooth? Well, the process of forging, rolling, and casting makes it happen. But let's go ahead and break that down even further. The quality of the finished product is only as good as the quality of the beginning steel, so they need to be well made and well cast. Once it's ready for the forge, the raw materials go through a pneumatic forging hammer with a spherical die to get that satisfying, perfectly round shape. These soon-to-be balls are white-hot and fresh out of the oven, and they're put through another machine called a rolling mill, which has a special spiral hole die, and the balls come out rolling when all is said and done. Luckily, many of these rolling mills are fully automated, meaning workers can press a button, stand back, and enjoy the show. And to create something so small, these machines are still pretty big and equally as powerful, so it's a good thing that as time has gone on, they've required less and less manpower to operate. Because if you get into a fight with one of these incredible forging machines, you're gonna lose. Number 3. Notching. Now it's time to add another notch to our belts because we're ready to be covering the process of notching. You've got your raw materials piping hot and fresh out of the oven. Chances are they're now going to need to be shaped, and they're not going to be doing that on their own. But what makes notching so amazing is that unlike the other entries we've seen today, it requires a human touch to get everything done just right. Something as simple as a lead pipe is going to need notching, and so while heavy machinery may be used, it's going to be construction workers or blacksmiths who quite literally hammer out the finer details. Everything needs to be perfect here, as the heavy hydraulic hammer strikes down on the pipe while the worker holds it in place and guides it as necessary. The notch has to be uniform as it moves all around the circumference of the lead pipe, and to say this process is arduous is an understatement. If it's your first day on the job, then it may be best to very carefully hand this one over to the pros. Number 2. Sumitomo Heavy Industries. If you thought Japan just had one forging powerhouse, then think again, because Sumitomo Heavy Industries is one of the biggest names in the game. In true Japanese fashion, Sumitomo has been working hard, fast, and with superb efficiency and attention to detail since 1960, and they always get it right the first time. The company has both large-scale tools and precision machinery that make them the bane of the competition's existence. They make everything from small connecting rods to gears and tools, and even massive crankshafts that are used to build cars, some of the largest container ships in the world, and even automatic weapons for armies around the globe. Sumitomo Heavy Industries have top-of-the-line hydraulic pressings that can hammer and twist malleable alloys into quite literally any shape imaginable. The factory here is an engineer's paradise because they're cranking out things like plastic molding machines, laser processing systems, particle accelerators, and even cancer diagnostic and treatment equipment. There is a pretty good chance that you've encountered some of Sumitomo Heavy Industries' work without even realizing it. Number 1. Spiral bending. The final entry on our list isn't just mind bending, it's spiral bending. It may seem like a cakewalk to get flat or rectangular bars, but sometimes you really need something twisted thrown into the mix to get the job done. The process of making twisted metal rods is certainly one of the most unique and fun to watch, as it almost looks like smiths are making some of the world's hottest and most extreme rounds of saltwater taffy, as that red-hot metal is placed onto the rotator and spun round and round. And while it may seem easy enough to let the machine do all of the work, this is another process that requires human hands to make sure that everything is done perfectly, because all it takes is for one tiny false move to ruin the entire thing. It all begins with heating long, thin pieces of metal rod to extreme temperatures, and these rods are pulled out one at a time, held on with blacksmith tongs before they're wrapped around the metal of the rolling hammer. The finished product is cooled, and the steam shoots into the air, and the spiral is done. It's an incredibly awesome process that is as meticulous as it is satisfying to watch. Watch our Machines playlist for more top 15 videos about awesome machines. Sit back, relax, and binge watch all of our best machine videos.